Hi, this is Leili with Integrity Over Scale, and I have Max here. How you doing, Max?
I'm well. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning. We usually record these on Wednesdays, and I'm sure your Wednesdays and my Wednesdays are all insanely busy. So by the time we meet, there's like a life that's already been lived. It's been
It's yeah.
crazy.
But you know what though? It's like the best piece of let's see, adult preparation wisdom I ever got was from my grandma. She said, "You know what, Max? If it's not one thing, it's another." And that just, that's been
Yeah.
so true. Anytime you're like, "Oh, if I could just get this last thing done, then I'll be good and then I can just relax." And then you get that done, right? You put that fire out, and then guess what?
Yeah.
Another one pops up somewhere else and you get that one done. And then like you get half an hour, 40 minutes, and then, oh, email comes in. Here's another. Like if you just make peace with the fact that this is just going to be how it is, it's so much better than just, trying to get that relaxing moment. I don't know. Like, I think that's like life, right? Is the blend of how do I relax, but also keep up with how crazy modern society is, right? Like, how do I do both at the same time?
Yeah, yeah. I am right there with you. It's just an ever-ending game of let me get this done, let me get this done.
Yeah.
And it's so important too, especially in leadership, because if you think like that, you're limiting your thoughts and being less
Yes.
creative and just focusing on like the next task, the next task. So your
Absolutely.
mind doesn't expand. Yeah.
For sure. Well, and
Yeah.
technology, I think, definitely has something to do with that. And I'm happy that, we're talking about technology because this episode is going to be super fun. And we're talking about what are we talking about? There's something to do with technology, right?
Yeah.
Tell everybody.
It it is. So we are doing a case analysis together, and it's about the rise and fall of BlackBerry. And
Mm,
it's really diving into what I think would be a really great lesson of technology when dominance becomes blindness for us.
mm.
So we're going right into the world of BlackBerry and talking about this case and what that really means for us today and what the
Yep.
lessons that we can take out of this today.
Yep.
So you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
I feel like we're going on a roller coaster every time I go, "You ready? Buckle your seatbelt. You're about to get into the
You
incredible
told me
ride."
we were going to be talking about this a few weeks ago. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like, I mean, I love a case study, right? Everybody
Me
loves a good
too.
case study, right? So,
I do too. It's one of my favorite things to do in a classroom with clients. And this a specific case when I texted you, I said, "Oh my God, we're going to do this," because
yeah.
it's just everything we're talking about now in a real life scenario. And maybe it would be good to go back all the way to 2007 when everybody had a
Yeah,
BlackBerry.
it was like the thing to have.
Yeah,
Yep.
not an iPhone, not an Android. It's this little device with physical
Yeah, an
keyboard.
actual keyboard on it. Imagine that. I remember yeah,
Yeah,
didn't they have, like, the pen that went along with it too? Like, didn't it did that have one
I
of those? Or no, maybe that was something different. The BlackBerry just had the actual type keyboard, but it was, like,
yeah,
wider, shorter, you know, like, it literally looked like a pocket calculator, you know what I mean? But, yeah, those things were huge, like, the branding went off. I remember a lot of people, like, business people always had, like, "Let me get my BlackBerry." They wouldn't even say, "Let me get my phone." "Let me grab my BlackBerry." So
did you have a
I did
BlackBerry?
not, no. No, I've
Yeah.
never been that high enough society to have a BlackBerry.
Uh, I had a friend of mine who had upgraded hers. So she had nicely given me her older one. And so I got to use BlackBerry, and I thought at that time, "Wow, like, I feel so important." It's like the coolest things.
Yep.
D it's like one of the coolest things to have, and, with I mean, I was a college student, so what did I know? But, I mean, executives, to your point, they were using it. It was their lifeline. Um, Presidents were carrying it,
Yeah,
Wall Street was carrying
right.
it. Um And somewhere along the way, people even started calling it CrackBerry because nobody could put this stupid device down, which now we have our iPhones and we do that constantly. So,
Mm. Have
but
you
that was back
have
in
you ever left the
2007.
have you ever left the house without your phone and you know you're not gonna be back until the evening and you get halfway someplace and you gotta make the call, "Do I turn around and go back or do I have a miserable day?"
Yeah, I've
Has that
done both
happened to
where
you?
I've had a miserable day and then I've had to
And
go
you've
back
gone
because
back?
there's no way. Yeah.
Yep. Well, let's get
Yeah.
what
So,
ho so tell me about the rise of BlackBerry then. Let's get into this.
yeah.
Get into the meat.
So BlackBerry was from Research in Motion, RIM, we'll call it, just for the
Mhm.
sake of our podcast. And RIM had a market capitalization of over $60 billion. And the revenue, I mean, it hit nearly 20 billion in 2011. So they didn't just dominate the smartphone market, they invented it. So in that span of 5 years, what happened, and I think this is why we're talking about it, is revenue fell from 20 billion to 2 billion
Mhm.
and market cap collapsed from 60 billion. This is the crazy part. 60 billion to 4. And the company that built smartphones lost the market entirely
Yep.
in the span of that.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to look at.
Got it. So the rise. So like the co-CEO structure, um, what why the rise? How did things come together so well for I mean, I don't know, like the BlackBerry to me seemed more antiquated than like futuristic, which is always interesting to me as a marketer. And to the point where like so many business people, it was like like you had to be in the club. Oh, you have a BlackBerry, like do you have a membership card for that thing? Like you had to be like in the club. So I don't know. It's always funny to me, but was it branding? Was it marketing? Was like why did they do so well in the beginning?
I mean, they had technology right at their fingertips and they were doing a really good job of it. And I feel like for us to really answer that question, we have to start in the beginning because the beginning of BlackBerry is actually a story that has exceptional, to our name, integrity. And it's in the truest sense of that word. So RIM was founded back in 1984 by Michael Lazaridis. I always say his last name incorrectly, but he's an engineering student and he's in University of Waterloo. He spent as the company 15 years building things, so barcode readers, wireless radios, interactive pagers. It wasn't a flashy startup at all when they started. They were engineers looking to solve real life problems. So what happened is 1992 came and Michael brought in Jim Baldy is what I believe his last name is. I always butcher their last name, so I apologize to the listeners if I'm totally butchering it. And what was different about Baldy was he was a Harvard MBA graduate. He became a co-CEO and he was running the business side of things. So where Michael was the brains, Jim was the business. And when what they built together in the following years with that was what I would call genuinely purpose aligned organization because Michael was the innovator and then the engineer who lived and breathed the product. And Walsey was the strategist. So he would scale it. We had different skills and shared direction and two co-CEOs that could really break through in the market.
Got it. So and one of them was way more on one side and one was on the other side. So, you've got it's a good way to put this. The It's like kind of like the sales department and the marketing department in a company need to be closely together. They need to know who's doing what. If there's sales initiatives, how are we like they need to work together, right? Even though they're different. sales and marketing are two different things. So just like you said, so one of the guys is like eat, sleep, breathe, blood, sweat, tears into the product. He's all about the product. He's the creative side. He's the, that invention, that sort of mind, right?
Mhm.
And then the other guy is like, great, but now we need to like sell it and pitch it and get investors and get funding and get marketing. And so there's the sort, did they just go like that down opposite paths and they didn't have any unity? And that's what started to divide things?
That's actually it's a really good observation, and that's what you'll see happen as we get into the collapse of all of this.
Got it.
But in the beginning, this was actually one of their strengths.
Yep.
So it led to the launch of BlackBerry in the late 1990s, so 1999. And what made it different from everything else in the market was not just the product, but it was the clarity of what problems they were coming to solve. So at the time, an example is the email part. So getting email on a mobile device was really painful. You had to dial in, connect to a server, navigate this clunky menu. But BlackBerry was always on. Messages were pushed directly to the device, and you did not go and get your email, it came to you. So for corporate professionals that were in high stake environments and managing communication, this wasn't just like a feature, it was transformational
Yeah,
for them.
that's like the whole thing right there. That's a great
Yeah.
differentiator. So it makes more sense
Mhm.
if, having that capability that audience would be all over it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, from a strategic perspective, and now marketing, Max, right? The targets were Fortune 500 companies. They were the Wall Street firms. They were the government agencies. They sent what they call wireless emails into major corporations to run pilots and show values firsthand. And within a year, companies like Intel, Merrill Lynch, they were ordering thousands of these devices. So the product was purposely
Mm,
built, and it was not designed for entertainment or like consumers like you and I. It was designed for
yeah.
indispensable security and reliability. So it was a
Yes.
good
I mean,
solution.
that's
It was a
that's
really good solution.
yeah, no, it's smart. That angle too. I mean, that's your introduction into corporate, like business to business. Like, hey, you use our product as your company phone because it pushes, email note, like quicker communication and all of that stuff. So yeah, okay. That it's
Yeah.
starting to make more sense. And then they kind of branded themselves that way. Yeah.
So if I put my consulting hat on, what really worked well, besides the product itself, is from a strategic standpoint, they didn't just chase the trend; they also solved a mission critical problem, and it was with precision, and they were disciplined. So with discipline, and they built a moat all around this. And so when I teach leadership, I really emphasize, especially if I'm teaching leadership strategies, I talk about integrity, not just as honesty, but it's also alignment between what you say you stand for and what you actually built to do. And in this phase, I mean, Rin had it completely down. It was great. Their product decisions, they were driven by genuine customer needs that they had saw. Their market focus was precise, and their leadership structured, I mean, to your point, complementary. You have co-CEOs covering different lanes, and they're covering the whole road together. So there was no formal strategy document, but there was this absolute alignment in the company. So it was a really good start to begin with, first and
Yeah.
foremost.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then what happened?
Yeah. Yeah. The destruction, right?
So
What exactly went through?
yeah, or like the iPhone disruption, like, right? Like that came it seems to
Yeah.
me like everybody like iPhone is like every time somebody gets an iPhone, I'm like, "Welcome to sophisticated society." That's like what you know what I mean? And like, I'm like, I don't have anything against Androids, but hey, have you ever been messaging with somebody and like what kind of phone you have an iPhone, don't you?
I do. I have an
Yeah.
iPhone.
Right.
Mhm.
So when we
Yeah.
message, it's blue, but you ever like you really like somebody, you just met him, maybe it's a new friend, new colleague, or maybe even like, potential date, and they text you and it's
Yeah.
green, and you're just like, "Oh, this person has an Android. Like, I don't know if I can do this anymore." That has never happened to you?
Oh, for sure.
Okay,
I get
cool. All
well,
right. So I'm
even
not crazy.
couple of
Okay.
years ago even couple of years ago, I mean, it wasn't compatible, right? So if someone, like, hearted something, it became like a text
Yes.
box when they hearted
I know.
things, and it was so
Isn't
annoying.
that funny? Like technology is like affecting how we like other people or not. Anyways, I don't want to get off. Okay, so yeah, so let's how did this blow up? I mean, you're kind of setting up
Yeah,
the stage, but when does it get
yeah,
bad?
and I also feel lucky as a millennial because we saw all of this happen, right? So 2007 rolls around, first part of the year, January, Steve Jobs walks onto the stage
Mhm,
at Macworld and announces the iPhone.
I remember.
And this phone is, I mean, we know this today entirely by touch. No physical keyboard. There's music, there's emails, there's internet all in one
Yeah, so
device.
much
And
more than a
he
phone, right?
exactly. And he called it 5 years ahead of anything else on the market. So you have this. And then right then and there, RIM shares dropped 10% that day.
Mhm.
Now, here's where the leadership story gets interesting, and I want listeners to really focus because the internal and external responses from RIM's leadership, they were very different. So, public response, total dismissal. Publicly, uh, oh my God, I'm going to say his first name. This is terrible. Michael dismissed the engineer, the thought behind all of this innovation. He dismissed the iPhone almost immediately, and his stated concerns were pretty technical. He said, hey, the battery's going to die too fast. Nobody could type on glass. Corporate clients had security requirements the iPhone couldn't meet. So he was telling reporters that there's no presence. Like,
Yep.
how much presence does Apple have in businesses?
Right.
It's pretty small. And of course, Bosley echoed that confidence. So both of the co-CEOs, they were publicly saying that this isn't going to work,
Yep.
and this is not what our consumers want. Anyways, the iPhone was like a toy to them,
Right.
but BlackBerry was this like enterprise infrastructure. So that's the first thing that we get out of this is like that was the disruption, and this is what they publicly said.
Crazy. Okay, so then
Yeah.
the downfall after that.
Private. So in
Private
in private
privacy,
reality,
private, yeah.
in privacy, yeah, in privacy. In private reality, while they were saying these things publicly, they knew what was going on. What makes this moment so
Mhm.
instructive is that Michael said internally in private, he told his team, "Hey, if that thing catches on, we're going to compete with a Mac, not a Nokia."
Ooh,
So
yeah.
he knew.
Yep.
And he recognized that the iPhone wasn't just a better phone, it was a different
Dude,
category of
yeah.
device entirely.
Steve Jobs, like, I always tell people, like, if you wanna learn how to have your words be really impactful, like, for sales or for presenting, like, if you watch Steve Jobs, because, like, everything he said was, like, a statement of certainty. You know what I mean? And, like,
Yeah.
he didn't ramble. He didn't say, uh, like, like, if you like, listen to Elon Musk, he's like, 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 he just kinda mumbles, and, like, nothing against it, like, super successful guy and all that, but Steve Jobs was incredible, and, like, iPhone, I mean, it's just decimated everything. I remember I was, like, 21 when that came out, and,
Yeah.
I'd had Androids and all of this stuff, and that came out, and it took me maybe 3 or 4 years actually before I caught on, but once, I started using it, got one, and I was like, "Okay, let's see what it's," and I was just like, "Oh my god, what have I been doing with myself?" You know what I mean? So, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And Steve Jobs was, I mean, all about innovation, all about staying competitive. And this is what really broke the integrity down. Not because BlackBerry, they lacked information and RIM. It was because they lacked the organizational courage to act on what they knew privately speaking.
Yeah.
So publicly, they say something totally different, and privately, they were like feeling
Yep.
it. They knew it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, it's insane. But anyways, just keep going with
So
this
how
concept of the
just
Apple.
out of
Yeah.
curiosity, quick, like how common do you see that in your like how common is the gap between private truth and public communication in with like the organizations that you work with? Do you see a lot of this stuff happening? And
Mhm.
are the is leadership in the company, all of them even aware that it's even happening sometimes?
Yes. I think that this is why I really like this case analysis because publicly, when something changes, like let's talk about AI because this is now the trend topic of
Sure.
everyone
Right.
um company. Oh, AI is going to do this and that. So publicly to their stakeholders, to their employees, they're saying, "Hey, this is going to change the way we do business, and I want you to do the A, B, and C now."
Mm.
And then privately, the leaders are having a totally different conversation about what AI is really going to do. So I see this quite a bit, which kind of brings us to the reason why we're talking about this case. There's so much more about saying something with confidence but not feeling that confidence internally. And if you can, as a leader, find the balance between the two and be vulnerable and at the same time not worry so much about power and dominance, like this case is showing us, you can make so much more of an impact, technologically speaking, than if you are thinking, I'm just going to say that this is going to be great and I have no competition. That doesn't really change much for you. And BlackBerry showed that to us so well, going from 20 billion to nothing pretty much.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, that's and in fact, like the keys, the some key stats here. So 1984 RIM, right? That's what it's called. RIM is
mhm.
founded, and it's Michael Lazaritis. So I
I think it's Lazardus,
Lazaridis,
Lazarides. Oh,
Lazaridis,
that's gonna kill
Michael
me right now.
Lazaridis. We apologize, Michael, but 1984, that's what it's founded. 1999, BlackBerry launched. 60 billion plus was the peak market cap in 2007. 20 billion was peak revenue in 2011, and then it collapsed to 2.2 billion by 2016. In January 2007, the iPhone is announced. The RIM shares dropped 10% that day. Apple Store
Mhm.
2008, 500 or 65,000 by summer of 2009. BlackBerry app, or sorry, I'm sorry, they had 500 apps, the App Store in 2008, but by the
Yeah.
summer of 2009, 65,000. So just an
Wow.
unbelievable amount. BlackBerry App World 2009 launched with only 2,000 apps. Then the storm, 500,000 units sold month one. Verizon replaced 1 million phones at a cost of up to 500 million. WhatsApp was launched, acquired by Facebook for 19 billion in 2014. Just crazy. So, and then by 2016, BlackBerry had 0.2% of the global smartphone market share. So,
Let me see.
what a roller coaster that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if
There are mhm.
no, no,
Go
go ahead.
ahead,
No, no,
sorry.
no, you go. I've been talking too long. You go.
No, if you're fine. Because all the statistics that you're sharing, it pushes me to talk about there are so many assumptions that BlackBerry has made. Because I don't want to talk about Apple so much. We already know what Apple is, and I mean they're pretty competitive
Yeah.
now in 2026.
Right.
S- So I want to talk about the assumptions that BlackBerry made that were never challenged because I think that we can take so much out of this.
Yeah. Let's go.
Um, One of the assumptions was the keyboard superiority. So the physical keyboard, BlackBerry would always say that that was preferred over touchscreen for real productivity. Um, that was that was something that was pretty big.
Well, it
And then the
was too,
second
because
one, yeah,
don't you remember with the phones that came out before, you had like the keyboard was, hit 1 and cycle through the letter, then
yeah,
2 cycled through the, ABC and the D, E, F, and then G, you know what I mean? So you had to like hit, if you're using the number pad, it was awful. So if you think about, and then they even had those like Nokias with keyboard, like after BlackBerry came out, they had like this separate, you'd separate and the keyboard would flip up or whatever. So it was a thing, right? Like,
yeah,
and like, if I go back to like my 2005 mind, if I'm thinking like, hey, what's going to be a better way to type? Actually having the keys on
yeah.
there, or, doing it on a screen, at that point, I'd probably be like, well, yeah, actually having the keyboard on there. Duh.
For sure.
Right?
And I mean, these are not terrible
Mm-mm.
assumptions either, because in back in 2009, 2005, you have Nokia, you have, BlackBerry, you have exactly to your point, like we had to press a button 3 times to get to type a text message and like a letter that shows up in the alphabet.
Yeah.
But by 2009, every one of them had been invalidated by the market, including the keyboard. Right now that we're talking about touchless, you can't make that assumption anymore because now your market's changed. So
Yes.
going into that, talking about market change, they assumed enterprise wins over consumers. So corporate clients were the only clients that mattered, and the consumer market was the distraction, which again, Apple totally shifted that.
Yeah,
So valid reason, not so valid now in 2009.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, when, dominance like distorts the feedback,
Mhm.
right? It's kind of like a universal
Yeah.
lesson. So what's like a concrete structure or practice you'd recommend for leaders who actually want to fix their feedback environment, um and not just say, they're open to it. We're open to,
You,
you know, cuz like,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's the innovation theater versus innovation integrity, right? I feel like there's probably going to be a split there
Hmm.
forever,
Hmm.
unless like, we're conscious enough to go meta on the whole thing and take our egos out of it, right? But there's always going to be that split. So like, are the companies that are doing it right just balancing that? Because you can have, I don't know.
Hmm.
Here's something for you. Here's something for you. Is it possible? Is it
Hmm.
possible to have so much integrity that you go broke in this business climate?
I think that there needs to be a balance between the two. And what we're seeing here is an imbalance of integrity over scale
100%.
in our podcast, right?
Yep.
So to your question, there's a reason why we are talking about the market here for BlackBerry. A lot of the assumptions that they had was based on past data, and now there's a new some. Let's go to Porter's Five Forces. For those of you who don't know, Porter's Five Forces is you're looking at what is coming in the market. So who's new? Who's this? How is your supplier? How are your buyers? You're looking at all of these contexts. And so, from a strategist perspective, what Ring needed to do was, hey, there's now Apple coming in,
Mhm.
this new entry. They're shifting everything. We need to start thinking about what that means for us. And so,
Yes.
publicly, it makes sense that they wanted to look confident and say, well, this is not going to matter so much. But even if you're having those private conversations, you need to do something about it. So this is where the downfall comes through. So what happened at Ring between 2007 and 2012, I if you watch the movie, there's a great movie on this and I loved it. So it was so great. It made us feel like it was like one big failure at the end of it, but it's actually the cascade of smaller failures, little by little, each that were made possible by the previous failure. So the thread running through all of them is the same. An organization that had stopped being honest with itself. The
Yeah.
integrity was falling apart,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So the strategic failure, the first one that we can really talk about is we're chasing the market without conviction. under pressure to respond to the iPhone, RIM launched BlackBerry Storm, I think they called it, in 2008. So the
Yeah.
company's first smartphone without a physical keyboard, and it was a touchscreen device that was totally, here's the key part of this, totally rushed to market to show that RIM could compete with iPhone. And about 500,000 units were sold in the first month.
Mm.
The reviews came in. One prominent technology writer called it the Edsel of smartphone. It's an absolute smeller from top to bottom. So the storm had significant glitches, and Verizon eventually had to replace about 1 million phones at a cost of up to $500 million.
Ooh,
So
that's
that's
that's a
number
chunk.
one failure.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. The other failure that I think is worth mentioning is Apple's App Store. It launched in 2008 and had about 500 applications. And then by the summer of 2009, it had 65,000.
Right.
Now, BlackBerry's app, I think it's called App World or something. It
Yeah.
launched that same year with like 2,000,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So this wasn't a resource problem. RIM was financially very strong. We're talking about no debt, very significant cash reserves. It was a belief problem because the leadership did not want the app ecosystem as a product. They saw it as an add on. But Apple understood that applications were the product, the phone was the platform.
Sure.
So the
Yeah.
platform gam was there. So that was
Yeah.
another failure. And again, you're hearing the assumptions and what BlackBerry doing pretty clearly as we go through them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's you kinda, when you're in business, especially in that business, any business, like, you wanna be paying attention to like, what the consumer
Yeah.
wants, you know? See
Yeah.
things through the consumer eyes. There's another I mean, this is super fascinating, but, uh, the other I don't know if you know the story of Netflix and Blockbuster, but,
Oh, yeah.
that's
That's
another
another favorite of
that's
mine.
another yeah, maybe in a different episode, we cover that one. I give that one I talk about that all the time, like, when I talk to people about marketing and business and, you know, or like Gary Vee who started, he literally was, like, the first person to ever bid on the Google keyword "wine." You know what I mean? Like, when it first came out. And he's like, "This is gonna be the new
Yeah.
thing. People are gonna want" and everybody said, "Nobody's gonna wanna buy wine on a computer. What are you doing? That's ridiculous." Now look at us.
Yep.
We buy everything on you know?
That's so true.
It's
We
wild.
don't know when there are innovators and visionaries where they see things and they're the ones who are really changing the way that we look at the market. Um, so as far as leaders go, I think one of the biggest pieces that I would say is have your eyes on what needs to come next.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and to a certain degree, we're talking about Apple and BlackBerry, how BlackBerry failed to live up to
Yeah.
Apple.
Well, there was a letter, like, somebody wrote, like, a letter, right? And posted it publicly and,
Mhm.
kinda, like, is it a the culture had been broken for quite some time, I guess, at that point, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
S
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
talk
because I
about
don't
that.
think we
What else can
mentioned
you
it.
tell me, Max? Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
I don't know. I think that healthy organizations, um,
Yeah.
like, if your culture is, no good, then it
Mhm.
doesn't matter. I guess it doesn't matter what the product or what industry it is. If the culture breaks down, I think you're not gonna be able to deal with any sort of shift in the market, any sort of strategy, competition. It's just not gonna matter
Yeah,
because, it's always gonna be something. But with that specifically, yeah,
yeah.
what happened when the letter was written?
Yeah. I'll definitely talk about the letter, but you brought up something again, as always, very important, and it's the culture. So sometimes when I work as a consultant or a coach and I come into a company and I talk about culture, immediately, especially if the leader hasn't really given into being coached and being developed and working on their emotional intelligence scores, for instance, when they hear the word culture, they think this is pathetic. Why do we need to talk about culture? What is the whole point of this? So going into what you're mentioning in 2010, the two groups reporting to each co-CEO had become fully siloed.
Yep.
And a senior executive described it as like a goat rodeo. So he said we became collectively, and I want to make sure that I'm saying exactly what he wrote. So, yeah, we became collectively ineffective at moving from the idea stage to a commercial success for
Mm,
anything other than devices. So,
mhm.
in June 2011, now we have this anonymous senior employee that posted this open letter that you're talking about in a technology blog. And it
Oh, it
became
was in
a
a tech
very
blog too, huh? Dang.
exactly. Yeah. And it became a very widely read document in the history of the company. So here's a couple of pieces that I'll read to you that it said. Almost every project is falling further and further behind schedule at a time when we absolutely must deliver great, solid products on time. He also wrote, teams still are not talking together properly. No one is making or can make critical decisions, all the while everyone is working crazy hours and still far behind. We are demotivated.
Yeah.
And here's two more for you. Overconfidence clouds good decision making. This is right to the co-CEOs, by the way. So that strength that they have is now siloed. So this is another failure. So overconfidence clouds good decision making. We miss not boldly reacting to the threat of iPhone when we saw it in January over 4 years ago. We laughed and said, they're trying to put a computer on a phone. We should have made the QNX like transition then. We are now 3 to 4 years too late. That is the painful truth. And then the last one I'll read because I really like this one. REM has a lot of people who underperform, but still stays in their roles. No one is accountable. We will never achieve excellence with this culture. He used the word culture. It's amazing in
Yeah.
2011.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I mean, when I'm reading this, what comes to your mind, Max? I would love to know.
Well, I think first of all, that sort of thing should probably be discussed within the company first, huh? Like in the boardroom before openly putting that on a tech blog, right?
Mhm.
Uh
Yeah,
I mean, and then right off the bat, I mean, was everything in the letter true or was it, did it come off as just the opinion of a disgruntled
yeah,
employee? Because I don't remember. But I mean, after that, yeah, like how do you recover from that? You know?
yeah.
That's basically making the whole company look incompetent, you know? Ouch.
This is someone who sounds like they suffered for 3 to 4 years before they wrote this letter.
100%.
And
Yep.
in a normal, healthy, positive culture, this is something that this senior person would go and talk to, internally speaking.
Yeah.
But from what we know now, because we're seeing the ego to integrity shift with the leaders, I don't know if this person felt safe enough to have this type of dialogue with the leaders. And what I want the listeners to notice is the pattern of how this collapse actually unfolded. Because in the early years, every decision was driven by a clear question of, hey, what does this customer actually need?
Mhm.
The engineering was in service of that question. The marketing was in service of that question.
Right.
The partnerships were in service of that question. So there was this alignment, even with the co CEOs. But then in mid 2000s, a different question quietly took over. And that's how do we protect what we have built? That's a very egocentric question.
Mhm.
It's not an integrity question anymore. And when you see and you hear that, and that becomes the dominant frame, especially in this type of culture, every market signal gets processed through this question. So the iPhone was not a threat to study and especially learn from. To this person's point, they should have done this 3, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a competitor to dismiss, and the consumer product wasn't an opportunity to pursue. It was a distraction from the corporate fortress. That's how they saw it.
Yeah.
So the organization had stopped being oriented around reality. It was now oriented in its own identity. Like we were awesome. We are so great. This is nothing. Forget it. And that is the type of attitude that I see that basically corrupts and disrupts
Sure.
the rise of what we know is a successful business today.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's powerful stuff.
Yeah. Well, maybe we slow down for them and we can come up with maybe specific decision moments where the story could have gone a little differently. Um, One would be we ignored consumer market. Another one is we mocked the iPhone instead of learning from it. We also delayed platform strategy, like we talked about. We rushed a launch of Storm for BlackBerry. We also looked at cross-platform decisions. So Ballsy wanted to open BlackBerry Messenger to all smartphones
Mhm.
and turn it into this platform agnostic messaging service. And this would have been a great strategic pivot. Um, and it was not unreasonable. So like WhatsApp, which did exactly that, was acquired by Facebook for $19 billion.
Yeah. Right.
And Michael and the incoming CEO, Hines, they rejected it in favor of doubting on BlackBerry's 10 hardware. So Ballsy resigned from the board and the company lost its last credible platform opportunity there.
Mhm.
Um, the last piece was probably the most important part of this case analysis is the leadership misalignment that was never resolved.
Right.
These
That's
two
it.
co-CEOs.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep. Everything, starts from the top and rolls down. So that's, as a closing reflection, if
Yeah.
you're feeling like you can't let go of what you've had or already built and you're ignoring the trends,
Yeah.
what's coming down the pipeline and what, your advisors or other people may be telling you, it's worth having some humility and saying, hey, am I looking at this objectively or is my ego getting in the way? Right.
I love that question
Yeah.
because let's talk about the lessons out of it. It's so easy to pinpoint, and I always tell this to any team that I worked with. Don't pinpoint problems, pinpoint solutions. What is a lesson that you take out of this? And the first one is integrity in a company like this means loyalty to reality,
Yeah.
not your past success. That's number one.
Yep.
And your dominance is the second lesson. That dominance distorts feedback. So, one of the most dangerous organizational dynamics that I work with is what happens inside companies that have been extremely successful because success has worked in the past. So, it's going to work in the future. And that's just not true. Success creates a filter. Information that confirms the existing strategy is going to get amplified. So, information that challenges it gets minimized, rationalized, or ignores. And RIM is a great example of that. So that's the second one.
Yep.
And then the third lesson is innovation theater, which we've talked about in this podcast versus innovation integrity. So Storm is the most visible example of what I call innovation theater. It goes with the sponsorship theater. You're building something that is not because you genuinely believe it solves a problem, but because you need to appear in innovative.
Yeah.
It's
More
activity in
about
the
the optics.
costume.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the fourth lesson is leadership integrity that requires inviting dissent. So the anonymous letter that we just reviewed together back in 2011 was not written by someone who had just arrived and noticed problems, right? It was
Of
written
course.
by
Yeah.
someone who watched that.
Been wearing
Yeah,
down on
yeah.
them for a while. Yep.
Exactly. So leadership integrity is not just about the decisions that you make. It's about the information environment that you create. So do people around you tell you that this is not working? Or did they tell
Yeah.
you what is it that you wanna
Yeah,
hear,
they call that
right?
Elvis syndrome.
He Oh my god, that
They do, yeah, just having, like, a bunch of
yeah.
sycophantic people that, "Hey, man, you're the man." You're like, "Hey, look, I kinda wanna do some drugs tonight and, eat really bad." And they're like, "Hey, you're the king, you can do that. You can do whatever you want," you know? It's Elvis syndrome. People just, "Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah," Bunch of people like this. So,
Yeah, they don't wanna say no to you.
yeah.
And then the last lesson for BlackBerry was the platform over product, and that's the final lesson. It's more about the fact that Apple did not beat BlackBerry by building a better service, they beat them by building a different kind of thing completely and entirely from what BlackBerry would have envisioned.
Yep,
So the question for every leader that's listening to this is, hey, what is the ecosystem that you're building? Not just the product or service that you're delivering today, but the network of relationships, capabilities, and the value that becomes more powerful over time as more people engage with your product or
yep.
service. So those are all the thoughts that I wanted to share with the listeners in terms of BlackBerry, and I hope that everyone enjoyed it because BlackBerry built the future, but they couldn't let go of the version of the future that they had already won.
Yep.
So that's what caused this collapse for us today.
Love it. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's good things to think about in, any businesses out there. There's a lot of stuff, the AI stuff going on right now. Everybody's like scrambling and, oh, do we lean into this or do we go away from it or do we not do anything and kind of see what happens so if you're dealing with stuff like this and you want somebody to talk through it, definitely check out invivoleadershipstrategies.com. Check out the podcast, share it with somebody. But we talk about this kind of stuff, case studies like this, companies that are dealing with similar situations. And so, yeah, I mean, we hope that you'll tell a friend, like, share, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Max. Thank you so much. Live your life in vivo, and we'll talk soon.
All right.